Rev up your engines!
Well, Toyota's still soldiering on with hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. They're always whining, everyone's whining at Toyota, oh, you don't make enough electric cars. I agree entirely. Batteries are a joke. They're never going to work all that long. If people do start buying them, they're all going to get ripped off. The battery's going to break. They're going to be stuck getting the things charged, waiting and waiting and waiting. I mean, I just read the other day, GM is trying to get their dealerships to put in level 2 chargers, and less than a third of them have accepted it. But even if they do put in level 2 chargers at their dealerships, right? One, you're going to have to go to the dealership. Two, they're only level 2 chargers. If you had, say, a Tesla and it needs a full charge, it's going to take anywhere from 6 to 12 hours on a level 2 charger to charge it up. They're not putting in the really fast ones. They're putting in ones that take a long. Can you imagine waiting 6 to 12 hours at a dealership? Of course, they try to sell you everything. What are you going to be doing, sitting there watching sitcoms on their TV for 6 to 12 hours? Odds are you'll get there and somebody will already be charging up. They'll say, oh, come back tomorrow, right? So Toyota, on the other hand, is working on hydrogen fuel vehicles. The Mirai has proven that it worked, their car. Now they're doing pickups and SUVs. They're trying them out in England, I believe. And they're also trying out semi-fuel cell vehicles. Realize that makes the most sense. Of course, the problem there is where's the hydrogen coming from? You know, there's no infrastructure for hydrogen yet. So, you know, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place either way if you're trying to switch. Because there's millions of people in the United States with cars. All of a sudden, you're not going to see millions of hydrogen stations. Of course, let's face the facts. The electricity's got to come from somewhere too. There's not enough on the grid. So it's almost like hydrogen. There's hardly any place to get hydrogen. Well, if everybody had electric cars, there's going to be hardly any place that's going to be enough electricity. Just realize if you have one of these supercharging stations that can actually charge them in 45 minutes. If one of those stations is full with all the cars charging, it uses as much electricity as a town while it's charging them because it's so fast, it uses so much power. So now I like the idea that Toyota's doing the hydrogen fuel cells. Maybe that'll be the case 30, 40, 50 years down the line. Who knows? It's way in the future. The guy for Top Gear, he had a Toyota Mirai and he said it was the best car he ever had, but he had to get rid of it because there was no place in England except 1 or 2 places to put hydrogen in it. So interesting technology, but it's going to affect us in the short term? No, I don't think it is. Well, here's a funny one. GM, you know, the talk. We're going to be electrifying by a few years. All our cars are going to be electric, blah, blah, blah. Turns out that only 1/3 of their dealerships are even accepting to put these chargers in their dealerships for charging electric cars. Strangely enough, Ford, 2/3 of their dealerships have already signed up for electric chargers in their stations, but GM, it's only 1/3, a little bit less than 1/3. And here's the funny thing. They're saying, well, we're going to put EV chargers in GM that anybody can use. Somebody with a Tesla can come use it and blah, 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 right? They're only talking about putting in level 2 chargers, okay? If you understand what a level 2 charger is, you're going to understand you don't want to use one of those when you're doing a cross-country trip because it can take anywhere from 6 to 12 hours to fully charge an electric battery at a level 2 charger. Those are the kind you can have hooked up at your house. These aren't the superchargers that can do it in 45 minutes or 50 minutes. These things are slow as Hades, charging them up. And of course, where are they putting them? At the dealership. They're only open a certain amount of time, and you know how that goes. It's going to take 6 to 12 hours to charge yours up. They'll probably already have somebody charge up and say, come back tomorrow or the next day and get your car charged, you know? It's so hilarious that people think this stuff is going to work. It's not, and it's definitely not going to work at dealerships. You think they're going to care about people coming to charge their car, especially if it's not a GM car? But even if it's a GM car, they make you wait for service. They're going to make you wait to get your car charged, and they're only level 2. We're not talking about really fast ones. We're talking about level 2. It can take 6 to 12 hours to charge your car. Yeah, you're traveling somewhere. You're going to be waiting for that, right? It's such a lack of infrastructure for this stuff. And then GM saying, we're going to be all electric in a few years. Yeah. I wouldn't bet a plug nickel on that happening whatsoever. They can't even get their dealerships to agree to put chargers in. And they're cheap chargers, too, the ones that take so long. You start researching this stuff, it starts falling apart as soon as you really look at the actual underpinnings of this battery electric nonsense. Wrangler Ray says, are the old Lincolns reliable and user-friendly? Are the town cars and Continentals more or less well-made cars? I like the 90s. Are they reliable and user-friendly? Here's the thing. They were very reliable vehicles. That's why you saw a lot of cab companies using them, right? You're talking about 90s. So you're talking about 30-something years ago. Things are that old. Stuff is going to go wrong, especially the Continental. They are 90s, but they're still electronic, fuel injection, electronic ignition system, that stuff generally tends to break down with age. If you found a cherry one in a barn, or in a garage, some old person didn't drive much, go ahead and snap it up. I know a guy who's got a Lincoln in Rhode Island that he got from a old lady. It's got like 40,000 miles on it from the 90s. And it's in excellent shape because she didn't take it out in the Rhode Island salt in the winter. She kept the garage in the winter, didn't drive it. So that's okay. So if you look at one, it's not all rusted out and it's lower mileage. It could be a really friendly thing, but realize it is very old. And when you're at that age, they're not really daily drivers because crap's going to break and then you're going to have to deal with all kinds of things just wearing out from old age. The seals, the rubber, the electric wires will start cracking. For a toy, yeah, but for an everyday driver, I'd stay away from anything that old. Arson 2862 says, I have a Honda Civic 1.5 with oil dilution problems. It's a 2020 with a 1.5 turbo. It had oil dilution problems since 27,000 miles. I noticed the dipstick was high and smelled the gasoline. The car now has no problems, and I switched to the 0W16 GF6B oil. Now, should I get rid of this car or should I keep it? Well, you see you don't have any problems now, and you switched the oil. The damage probably hasn't done anything yet, and you switched the oil. But here's what you want to do. The next couple of oil changes, get those oil sampling kits. There's a bunch of companies. I have a video and shows how the oil sampling works. It analyzes the shape of your engine. Do that the next two oil changes. When you get the oil change, take a sample of each, send them in. And if they see that the oil dilution has gone down to almost nothing, great. Now, if it's still up there, I'd sell the car and get rid of it. But I've seen so many of those Hondas fixed with that oil. That's what that oil's made for, to stop oil dilution problems. That could easily solve all your problems. But do the oil dilution test, the next two oil changes, and that will tell you. It's not like it's going to destroy the engine in 5 minutes. It takes a long time for it to wear things out. But you'll find out. And like you said, before the oil was going higher because it was diluted with gasoline, so the level went up. If the level stays the same, then you know the dilution isn't that bad now. But the only way to really tell is to have it analyzed. So get it analyzed the next two oil changes. Well, if you think I'm not telling the truth about Hyundai and their crazy cars and their problems and their poor dealerships, well, here's one for one of you viewers to show how insane Hyundai actually is. Mark Johnson sends me this email. We bought a 2017 Hyundai Elantra. It's 54,000 miles on it in August 2022. I took it for a transmission fluid change, and they said they can't do it because it's a sealed transmission. The closest Hyundai dealer says the transmission fluid never needs changing, and they can't or won't do it. But my owner's manual says to change the fluid every 60,000 miles. What should I do? Are these dealers idiots? You want to change it, you know? I mean, let's face it. You want to change it. I would change it every 40 to 60,000 miles. Learn how to do it yourself. Watch some of my videos, because that just shows you the insanity of these things. The dealer says, well, it's sealed. You never need to change it. We won't even touch it. And your manual says to change it every 60,000 miles. Now, if the Hyundai dealers can't even get together with the manufacturers and do things correctly, it is unbelievable. But I see this all the time. When I lived in Houston, and Hyundai was trying to build everything up right there, trying to make themselves bigger and bigger and bigger. They were hiring just about anybody to work there. Mechanics, sales guys, you name it. They were just opening up dealerships. Anybody there, people take their cars in, nobody knew how to fix them. And here, they're not even telling you, oh no, you don't ever need to change it, but your manual says to. Just shows you. There's a real disconnect between reality and the dealerships that Hyundai has. It's just the way that it goes. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Well, here's yet another crooked dealership story. Will Alot, one of your viewers, sent me an email. I was driving down the road, and all of a sudden there was a bang, and my window exploded upwards on my Toyota. So I called my Toyota dealer and told them my moonroof exploded in the cold. They made some rumblings about a possible rock. Said the truck is under warranty, so they should look at it. I don't see how a rock could make a roof explode upwards, and my dash cam showed no rock. So I called the service dealer today, and he said they're not going to cover it. I was struck with a rock prior to that, and that caused the breakage. They won't cover it. I talked to Toyota Relations, they said the same thing. They said a rock broke it. What can I do? I agree with you entirely. It would not explode outwards. If a rock hit it, it would explode inwards. But on top of that, they say a rock caused the breakage. How do they know? The thing is shattered out, right? They have no proof of anything. They're just making it up. And you had your dash cam on there, and you didn't see any rocks come flying out. Like you say, if a rock hit it, it's going to go in. It's not going to go out. That's just common sense, right? But they're just covering their own hiney, so they don't have to fix anything for free, which is kind of disgusting because they have absolutely no proof that a rock hit it, but they say, oh, a rock hit it. They have no proof whatsoever. They're just lying and saying, well, we're not going to cover it. What are you going to do? And then your Toyota rep said, oh, well, we're not going to cover it either. If I were you, forget this. Try to contact Toyota themselves. Show them this video. Scotty says, of course, it wouldn't explode out. It would come in. And how could you prove a rock hit it? Because there's nothing but shards around. Unless there was a rock inside the car. And generally, when rocks hit them anyways, they're going to bounce off. They're not going to have any proof that a rock hit it. They're just supposing that a rock hit it and they don't want to pay for it. So, you gotta know this sleazy dealership. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.